And we are back. What is going on, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice Pacers. Guys, the Indiana Pacers, they handled business tonight, dominating the Brooklyn Nets with a final score of 133-111, a 22-point victory at home. The largest lead that the Indiana Pacers had in this game was 36 right before the end of the third quarter. So this was just a domination of epic proportions today, Cody. We should have expected the Pacers to do this. They had 2 days of rest while the Nets are just coming off of basically this was a back-to-back game for them. So, I mean, this was prime basketball for the Pacers to get things done today.
And we should expect this about every single time. But unfortunately, this year, the Pacers, when we expect them to win, when they seemingly have the advantage, they've had a couple games where you look like you're one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like you can't play against some of these bad bottom feeder teams. And so this is exactly the type of performance that you were looking for the Pacers to have here in this game. And so, yeah, you talked about it pretty much from the start. The Pacers absolutely dominate this game. And, pretty much it felt like the entirety of the game, especially as it went on, the Pacers just continued to grow that lead, in this game. And so, yeah, definitely was fantastic to see them basically take care of business at home the way that we expect them to, against a bad team in the Nets off of, like you mentioned, a back-to-back type of thing. At home, the Pacers were. So, like, all those things you expect the Pacers to take care of business. And, like, you wish that they would have done this a little bit more earlier on in the season, because you never know how well record-wise they could be right now. But nonetheless, the Pacers did take care of business, and it was a very impressive performance all the way around from this team, and exactly the response you hoped for.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, this is the kind of performance you were hoping against a team that didn't have any rest versus you. It was pretty similar stats in the shooting department. Pacers shooting 51.5%. The Brooklyn Nets shooting 47.5%. Both teams shooting over 38%. The Pacers were actually at pretty much 42%. So both teams shot the three relatively well in this game. But the Pacers were better efficiency-wise from the free throw line, had a few more rebounds in this game than the Nets did, almost double the assists that the Brooklyn Nets did. Had 35 assists in this game, and to Brooklyn's 19. 6 steals for the Pacers in this game, 9 blocks, and a total of 15 turnovers for the Brooklyn Nets to the Pacers 10. Really the only stat that the Brooklyn Nets really did better than the Pacers was just committing less fouls, even though that wasn't by that much. Pacers dictated the pace of the game, scoring 23 fast break points, and that was in comparison to the Brooklyn's 5 fast break points. So stat-wise here, before you get into any kind of individual stats, Cody, I mean, overall, the Pacers dictated practically every major stat line in this game, and that's why they kept the lead the whole night.
Yeah, and again, also in addition to that, they beat Brooklyn by 18 points in the paint. They had the advantage. They scored 70 to Brooklyn's 52, and that's without Miles Turner for the majority of the game. And then obviously Jalen Smith gets, the tech and gets ejected. So they were doing it with guys like Isaiah Jackson, Obi Toppin, some of those guys. And so, yeah, it was very good to see kind of some of your depth get some opportunity here. And I thought overall they played pretty well. So, yeah, definitely, like you said, pretty much the Pacers on every category that mattered. The Pacers were pretty dominant overall against the Nets. So, yep, pretty much every single stat you can think of, the Pacers, they took care of business.
Yep, and then going to the team stats here, one thing we will take mental note of, Miles Turner had to leave the game late in the second quarter due to what looked to be maybe a broken finger. That definitely, I saw the image, Cody, that definitely did not look good for Miles Turner. Really unfortunate too, because Miles Turner, that's your big man. That's the guy that makes it happen in the middle. And if Miles Turner is incapable of playing for the next several weeks, that could be spelling trouble for the Indiana Pacers as they're looking to push their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, that was not a pretty looking one at all. You saw the picture; it was pretty nasty. So hopefully Miles is all right. Hopefully, it looked a lot worse than it actually was. Again, we didn't get really any updates as of yet, although he was not able to come back into that game. But Derek, he did come back to shoot the free throws, which I thought was interesting, and shot it with his left hand and made 1 out of 2. So that was definitely kind of cool. But Miles, hopefully he's good, and he can just, if he needs to take a couple games off or whatever it is, hopefully he's right for the playoffs at this point. And so, yeah, definitely sucks, and that's unfortunate, but hopefully Miles is good. I really hope he's good, and I really hope that whatever happens here with Miles is like it's minor, and it looks a lot worse than it truly is.
Hopefully. I mean, good news is you have about 2 weeks pretty much until the end of the season, regardless if they have Miles Turner or not. The Indiana Pacers most likely are looking at a playoff spot at this point, regardless of having Miles Turner. But you would like to see him back for the playoffs at the end of April. So hopefully that, like you said, hopefully that finger can, be able to withstand a little bit more. And hopefully it's not, you're right. Hopefully it heals a lot faster than what it actually was. But outside of Miles Turner, huge day for the starters. The only starter that had more than 25 minutes was Tyrese Haliburton, who had 27 minutes on this game, had 27, 4, and 13, had a steal and block as well, was a plus 26 on the court today, actually shot 60% from the field. It was about 58% from a three-point range, made all of his free throws. I mean, honestly, Cody, this might have been the best game from Tyrese Haliburton since we saw him come back from the injury. I mean, 27,
Probably
4, and 13, shooting 60% from the floor. Didn't even have a turnover. This looked like your vintage Tyrese Haliburton tonight.
Yeah, and that's great news, obviously, is like Tyrese. We knew that he'd been injured. He'd been dealing with some stuff, off of that injury and just wasn't quite himself. And so it was great to see just Tyrese kind of being back to what we're used to Tyrese being, kind of just the type of player that he is on the court, what he can do, obviously the efficiency wise, but also just as a creator as well, be able to find guys and assist guys and all that kind of stuff that really it's clear that, the offense for the Pacers runs through Tyrese. And so great to have him kind of, I don't know if he's 100% back, but definitely a lot better than we've seen post-injury. I think, like you said, this is probably the best we've seen Tyrese look since he got injured. And so that's definitely great news, like you mentioned, with the playoffs coming up here and the Pacers. Every single game matters here for the Pacers, and they got to take care of business. And so definitely great to see Tyrese seeming to be back, and definitely seems like he's enjoying himself a lot more here as of recent, because obviously he's been playing a lot better and the Pacers have been winning. So, I mean, that's what we said, Derek, when Tyrese is on, this Pacer team can beat about anybody and they can go out there and they can dominate. But that's just been the thing. The Pacers and Tyrese, he hasn't been very consistent off that injury. So he's starting to stack some more consistent games. So huge for him and huge for Indiana and just what they do offensively. And we're starting to see their offense start to come alive even more as of recent, Derek, with how Tyrese has looked.
Absolutely. And I think it was very telling just based off of how the Pacers were able to push the basketball. And a lot of it came off of Tyrese Haliburton pushing it to the middle of the court and pushing it down low. I think that really set the tone for everyone else. And as we go towards the rest of the starters here, Nembhard finished 7, 2, and 6. Only had 1 turnover, was a plus 20 on the day. Aaron Naismith, 11, 4, and 0. Also had 2 fouls in the game, but he was a plus 28, the highest plus total of anyone on the Pacers today. And Pascal Siakam finished with 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists and 1 steal, finishing with 24 minutes. Only person who didn't shoot around 50%, Cody, was Nemhard, who finished today with 2 of 6. So wasn't a great shooting day for him. But overall, the starters definitely did enough to be able to keep things moving. But the bigger story is you had 3 guys off the bench that scored double-digit points. You had Obi Toppin, who finished with 14, 4, and 3, had a steal as well in 19 minutes. He shot 67% from the floor. Smith also had 17 points, was actually your leading rebounder with 10 rebounds in this game. Also had a block on 16 minutes, went 7 of 11 shooting from the field. And also TJ McConnell finished another game with 10 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, finished 5 of 13 shooting. So, I mean, this was what we expected, Cody. We had a lot of bench guys get a lot of minutes. Obi Toppin had 19, Smith had 16, Walker had 13, Doug McDermott had 19, Jackson had 14, and TJ McConnell had 18, and Ben Shepherd actually had 16. So, I mean, you had so many bench guys going out there doing what they did, and a bunch of bench guys really getting a lot of that extra work in. And that's huge for the Pacers trying to close out this year while you're trying to keep your starters fresh and get some of these depth guys a chance to be able to get on the court.
Yeah, and we saw guys that typically don't get a lot of minutes, right? Like you mentioned, guys like McDermott, guys like Shepard, although he's been getting a little bit more, getting Jackson a little bit more minutes. He had 14, Walker 13, Kendall Brown, Isaiah Wong, like some of those guys that, maybe aren't necessarily getting a ton of minutes on a given night are getting more of opportunities here. And I do think, Derek, that's why the fact that, the score, I think, didn't indicate how truly dominant this game was. Even though the Pacers did win by 22, they really, Derek, were up, like we said, like over 30 points for most of this game. And then, having some of your bench guys out there, it kind of cut down on that lead a little bit. But yeah, definitely great for some of these young guys to get an opportunity. And I don't really feel like you've had that as of recent, the opportunity for some of these guys to get some extended minutes in the fourth quarter. So yeah, definitely great off the bench, a lot of different guys that were contributing. You mentioned Jalen Smith. He would have probably gotten more minutes if he didn't get ejected with Dennis Schroeder with that whole thing, which I think was stupid to begin with, because Schroeder knocks his goggles off. And, obviously Jalen Smith shouldn't have pushed him, but Schroeder doesn't get ejected, but Jalen Smith does get ejected. That's just kind of ridiculous in my opinion. But, that's why we said guys like Isaiah Jackson had to take on a little bit more of that. Guys like him, Obi Toppin, some of those big guys, because at one point, Derek, you were out your 2 starting centers, with the injury and the, technical. So definitely great to see some of these bigger guys and some of these bench guys getting some more opportunities. So definitely great to see there, and definitely nice to feel like you're in control and you're dominating. Feels like it's been a while since we've seen the Pacers truly dominate like this in this kind of fashion against a team they should, frankly, dominate against. But yep. Yeah, definitely great to see. And when the starters and the guys that truly play meaningful minutes on a given night were out there, it really wasn't a contest. Not even close.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it wasn't really much of a contest. I mean, the Pacers had a 10-point lead over the Brooklyn Nets when we were halfway through the first quarter. It never really got any better for the Nets at that point in time. So, yeah, this was a total domination effort from start to finish for the Pacers. And as we said, guys, that's how it should have been. This was a team that was coming off of no rest and undermanned, and it was a situation where the Pacers had to take advantage. But they now are 43-33, remaining strong in that 6th seed, only a game or only 2 games behind Orlando for that 5th seed. The Pacers still knocking. The next game they will play Wednesday night against, guess who? The Brooklyn Nets. Only this time they'll be in Brooklyn. So it is definitely going to be, no emotions will be spared in that game. There'll definitely be some high tensions there. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts on this dominating effort from the Indiana Pacers over the Brooklyn Nets. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for all the support. And as always, go Pacers.